Welcome to Ask the Tech Coach, brought to you by the TeacherCast Educational Network. If you are in charge of professional development and looking to build an innovative digital learning experience, this is the podcast for you. Join us each week as we uncover strategies that tech coaches are using to drive their digital transformations one classroom at a time. And now for your host, with over 2 decades of experience working with tech coaches and ed tech companies from all around the world, Jeff Bradbury.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the TeacherCast Educational Network. My name is Jeff Bradbury. Thank you so much for joining us today and making TeacherCast your home for professional development. This is Ask the Tech Coach podcast, episode number 193. Welcome to the middle of May, and today we are going to be talking all about the ISTE Conference coming up at the end of June. We're looking forward to talking all about it, and today I have a very big announcement to share with everybody. And we have a very special, I will say middle of this podcast, an interview with the CEO of ISTE, Mr. Richard Collada. We're going to talk to him today all about what he thinks ISTE is, how he sees the ISTE mission, how you as an instructional coach can use the ISTE standards to your advantage, and so much more. Please do me a favor, stick around for this entire show. But before we get into that, before we get into our big announcement, I want to bring on Miss Susan Vincent. Sue, how are you today? Welcome to Ask the Tech Coach.
I am great. Great to be back with everyone. Thank you for listening. We're heading down the home stretch here in Kentucky, and it's Derby weekend as we record this. So if you know Kentucky at all, you probably know the big horse race is happening this Saturday.
Now, Sue, I got to ask here, and you know, we didn't rehearse this at all, but when you're instructional coaching this week, do you have to wear the big hat?
No, I don't.
I mean, can you wear the big hat if you want?
You can. I mean, they have the whole Derby theming going on throughout the week. Even it's been Teacher Appreciation Week, and that's been the whole theming of the treats and lunches. But yeah, they dress like the jockeys and wear the hats and all the good stuff.
Wait a minute. Instructional coaches have to dress like jockeys?
Well, the kids put on the little suits, and the kids that's one of the big projects is the kids design their, what's it called? The jockey. It's not a uniform. It's not called a uniform, but you know what I mean.
Thing that's going to get filled with dirt by the end of the race, right?
Absolutely, especially when it's going to be raining.
Well, good luck to all the people that are out there. Of course, as you're listening to this today, it is around May 16th when this is coming out, episode 193. And so, you know, we're talking all about the ISTE conference. We had a question all about ISTE. Sue, why don't you read for us our coach's question of the week?
So our question from this week that's been the topic of discussion is, what is the ISTE conference? And as an instructional coach, is this something I should be keeping on my radar?
Honestly, absolutely. You know, this is going to be an amazing ISTE. There's so many new things coming. ISTE, of course, is the International Society for Technology in Education. When we started, when TeacherCast, I said we again, when TeacherCast started up almost 11 years ago, you know, I looked at ISTE as the conference, this thing, right? Everybody says, go to ISTE. And I did. What I wasn't prepared for is ISTE is so much more, right? It is a conference. Yes. It is a professional network. It is a amazing community of educators. I have learned so much from my collaborations. We'll talk a little bit about that today. But I met somebody pretty important at ISTE. Do you know who that person was?
Was it your wonderful co-host?
It was my wonderful co-host. You and I met 4 years ago, something like that, maybe.
Something like that.
Somewhere around there. We were in the hallway, and I think you had already been on the show once, maybe twice, and we happened to catch each other, and there we were. You were talking to Jerry Blumengarten at the time, but you know, it is a great opportunity to connect. And this year, ISTE is going to be a hybrid conference. Last year, of course, due to the pandemic, it was virtual only. And this year, they're calling it ISTE Live 22, but it is going to be live in New Orleans, and it is also going to be virtual. So anybody that's out there interested, I highly recommend. Check out all the great stuff. Sue, what's your big memory of ISTE or of the ISTE conference, or what does ISTE mean to you?
Well, I remember back when I first became a tech coach, instructional coach, what have you, and like you said, that was the big thing. I was involved in our state affiliate, KISTE, here in Kentucky, and I served on the board for several years, and had the opportunity to go several years in a row. I remember going for the very first time when I think it was in San Antonio, and it was still called NECC. And a couple years later, they changed it and called it the ISTE Conference. But I mean, I just remember walking in that vendor hall for the first time and was just in awe. I was like, wow.
I remember that too, right? The vendor hall, it's warehouses full. I mean, they
Yes.
take over the biggest and the best there. Obviously, this year it's going to be in New Orleans. Looking forward to next year when it's in Philadelphia. But they always say the best part of ISTE is just meeting people, getting to network,
yes.
spending time in the hallways. Coming up, I had mentioned we've got a great conversation with ISTE CEO Richard Collado, where I do have a chance to ask him about the opportunities for networking. And he goes into an amazing story of how they actually sit and measure where the couches are and how the couches are placed. And, it's not like just random acts of, what they call the bloggers cafe or,
Yes.
random acts of like they purposely build these things so that people can sit and network.
So speaking of all this ISTE talk, you've got some pretty big stuff happening in the whole ISTE realm. Why don't you reveal that big announcement?
I do. I am so excited about this big announcement. Last year at the ISTE conference, which it was virtual, but last year I was honored as the ISTE award winner for instructional coaches. Very, very awesome. Very honored. Again, always saying thank you to you out there and to this community for support of that. Through that and through that award program and stuff like that, I got active in the ISTE community, got active in the ISTE community leaders. And you might be familiar with the ISTE PLNs. Those kind of disbanded last year and morphed into the ISTE community. And over the last year, the ISTE community leaders, which is led by the amazing Lauren and the amazing Margaret, have really done a great job. And I would say the ISTE community leaders group is, 30 people, 40 people, some kind of a number like that. But we have broken off into a variety of different buckets. And I'm not going to get all of these correct, but I mean, we've got one that focuses on Twitter chats, monthly Twitter chats around a subject, monthly webinars around a subject, digital citizenship stuff, global collaboration. I mean, we're kind of keeping the spirit of the PLNs, but we've just kind of rebranded things a little. And I hope I'm saying all this stuff right. You can learn more about this on Twitter at ISTE Community and follow the hashtag ISTE Chat. But one of the sections of this, the PLNs that kind of build out for that, was a podcast group. And one of the things that they found last year was that there is an interest from the ISTE community to gather information and to be kept up on ISTE information in the form of audio podcasts. So we put together a group of 10 to 15 educators, some amazing people from around the globe, literally around the globe. We're definitely having meetings in multiple languages. And we, over the last 6 or 8 months or so, have created a podcast, a brand new podcast that at the time of this recording is not out, but hopefully by the time you're listening to this will be out. And the entire podcast is going to be called The Edge. And the whole concept of it is a show by educators, for educators, about educators, helping you learn the stories, those successes, how we can work together and collaborate. I am so excited to be working with this, to be helping to lead this organization and lead this group. So we've got 3 episodes coming out before ISTE starts. I'm so excited about this project.
Yeah, I got a sneak peek from Jeff of the trailer of the podcast, and just the whole, Jeff's voice is intriguing there about the edge, but very intriguing. And I can't wait to hear these episodes. So what are some of these episodes going to cover as
I'm glad you mentioned that, because I have done everything that I can. Like, we've been doing this show for the last 11 years, or TeacherCast has been around for 11 years almost now, right? I set my sights on making this show like 100% different than what we do on TeacherCast. Obviously, it's me and we're having some fun like this, but yeah, we're having fun. The show is roundtable. Every episode features 5 or 6 or 7 different educators, but these first 3 episodes I'm extremely excited about, because it gives us an opportunity to not only do a small roundtable of half an hour or so, but really deep dive in with some great, amazing guests. And leading up into the conference, we have 3 great guests coming on. Now, episode 1, we had the opportunity to interview Richard Collada, the ISTE CEO. And in order to help promote and to share that part of that episode, we're putting today on this episode here. So you're going to get a chance to listen to it, but I still want to encourage you guys, check out episode 1, because there is about a half an hour of different content on that with our roundtable, with our educators out there. Get it? And so we're going to make sure that that's there. So episode 1 really is, what is ISTE? How does it work from a global point of view? Episode 2, we have a great roundtable, and episode 2 is going to be coming out hopefully around June 1st, and that's going to be called What to Expect from ISTE in New Orleans. And, of course, when you're thinking about ISTE in New Orleans, of course, you're thinking about, the food. So we have a great roundtable all about the conference, what to expect, what kind of shoes to wear, but also our guest for that episode is one of the ISTE featured speakers, a great educator, author, podcaster, speaker, you name it. She's amazing, and she's a lawyer. Also, on top of having a doctorate in education, Rochelle Danae Poth is my guest on that. We had a great episode and a great conversation. Again, that one's going to come out around June 1st or so. And then hopefully somewhere and or around June 15th is going to be about ISTE Live. And we have Camilla Gagliolo, who, if you don't know Camilla, she started off her career as a teacher, and then she started working with ISTE, for ISTE, and really anything that you see that has to do with the conference or a virtual or anything in professional development, like Camilla's the person for all of that stuff. So really fortunate not only to have Richard on the show, Camilla on the show, Rochelle on the show, but to have a great roundtable. And these 3 episodes really form a nice triangle for what is ISTE, how does it work, where do you go? And then over the summertime, we're gonna open this up. Episodes 4, 5, and 6 we haven't recorded yet, but they're going to be roundtables. They're all going to be featuring great educators such as yourself. We are going to be focusing, on things like social media, equity, racial justice, all these different things. Coaching is definitely going to be a subject. And you know what? It's different than Ask the Tech Coach. It's different than TeacherCast. I'm looking forward to this, and I'm excited to be a part of it.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear some of the inside and inner workings of how ISTE works, how they plan the conference, hearing some of those stories like you described earlier. So I'm excited. So how, where, when can I start subscribing to the new Edge podcast?
The Edge. By the time that you're listening to this, again, this episode here is going to be dropping on May 16th. By this point in time, the trailer should be up. So go to your favorite podcast player, your Spotify's, your Apple Podcast, whatever it is. Do a search for ISTE. Do a search for The Edge. This isn't going to be the only ISTE show that you're going to see. There are other ISTE shows in their archives. I'm not sure exactly how many are still living or archived or breathing or anything like that, but I've been doing a search for The Edge and ISTE. And again, as of this recording here, we're recording this on May 5th. It hasn't come out yet, but I'm told at any minute now, like Apple will getting approved in it. I know just from my own experiences, Apple could take a couple days to approve. And then it takes a couple days to get like into the search engines and stuff like that of Apple Podcasts. So really excited about all this stuff. And you know what? That's why we wanted to do this episode now. And so, you know what? No better time to kind of take a pause. Let's play the interview part with myself and ISTE CEO Richard Collada. My guest today began his career in education as a classroom teacher, helping teachers learn how to use technology in their classroom. He also was the senior advisor to the United States Secretary of Education and director of the Office of Educational Technology at the U.S. Department of Education, where of one of the many things he did, he helped us develop our National Educational Technology Plan. He was also the first Chief Innovation Officer for the state of Rhode Island. He's an ISTE Making It Happen Award winner, and he just happens to be the current CEO of ISTE. I want to welcome to the show Mr. Richard Collada. Richard, how are you today? Welcome to the show.
I'm so glad to be here. Thanks for making this happen.
I am so excited to have you on here. Thank you for being a guest on the first ever episode of The Edge, our ISTE community leaders platform. And I got to just start off with our first question here. What is it like to work with so many amazing educators each and every single day?
Well, I mean, it's awesome. First of all, I'll tell you that was the thing that made me so excited about coming to ISTE originally, which now 5 years ago. It seems like it's just the other day, but that was what I was so excited about. But it's also, I mean, I won't lie, it's also a little intimidating, right? Like we have a lot of really smart, really amazing educators that we serve. And so, we got to have our act together, and we got to have, and I love the fact that we have a community that doesn't accept, things that aren't top notch. So it holds my feet to the fire, certainly. And that's the, it's not the board or our sponsors that I worry about. It's the teachers who are going, are you helping us? Are you helping provide what we need? And it's good. It pushes us.
I got to say, you and I first met each other. I know you probably don't remember this. It was in 2017. It was at ISTE. And if I can pull up a picture here, this was the first time I believe that ISTE introduced you to the world.
It is.
What were you thinking at that moment, getting, hey, here's the guy and here's what we're going to be doing over the next 5 years?
Yeah, that's funny. I haven't seen pictures. That's great. I was thinking, wow, I hope I, don't screw up what I'm supposed to be saying here in this meeting. I don't know, something like that. No, it was actually a really exciting moment in all seriousness, because that was the one of the things that I was sharing was this, at the time, a vision for a broader series of opportunities to engage with ISTE. Right. So when I started, we had, certainly our membership program and ISTE Live, but we weren't really offering professional development programs. We weren't really offering any sort of certification, right? And so that was where I was sort of plotting out this vision and saying we need to be able to be helping teachers, education leaders, more than just 5 days a year at the conference. As great as it is, right? 5 days is 5 days. Like there's only so much you can pack into 5 days, and we knew that we had to be helpful and supportive throughout the whole year. So that's what I was doing in that picture, was laying out that vision. And the cool part now, looking back, is that we've done those things, right? We have this whole learning platform called ISTEU. We have ISTE certification. We have a bunch of new things we've added to our membership program. We have a new, some tools to see what apps make a work in the classroom. So anyway, a lot of that stuff has already happened.
I very much remember being there and hearing this vision coming through. And, speaking of vision, speaking of where ISTE is, the mission statement is that ISTE inspires educators worldwide to use technology to innovate teaching and learning, accelerate good practice, and solve through problems in education by providing community knowledge and the ISTE standards, a framework for rethinking education and empowering learners. I gotta say, as somebody who's been studying mission statements and vision statements in my program, I love the fact that it starts with inspiring educators. Why is that so important, that ISTE is a place that inspires education and classrooms?
I thought you were going to say that our mission statement's a little long. We probably should tighten it a little bit, but there's so much important stuff in there. No, that's critical, right? That idea. We believe that the most important lever for change, for improving education, for making a difference in the world is teachers. It's the humans in the equation, right? And you make, things happen, improvements happen when people are inspired to make change, when they're inspired to try new things, when they're inspired to try to do things better. And so we keep that at the root of all we do. When we're planning events, we care about the content, of course, but the main question we're asking is, will people leave inspired? When we think about, books that we publish, when we think about professional learning experiences, that's always the point. Because if we're not inspiring educators, if we're not inspiring teachers and leaders, then honestly, what's the point, right? There's plenty of other places where we can just go get random facts. We want people to leave inspired.
I love that answer. And inspiration through communication, inspiration through community can only lead to inspiring our students in the classroom. Do you get a chance to get into classrooms much these days? You get a chance to travel around and see what's happening in the classrooms?
So starting to again, I used to all the time. So I had a rule that whenever I would travel somewhere, I would always try to do a school visit wherever I happened to be, whether it was outside of the US or somewhere around. And so I spent a lot of time in schools and I loved it. Obviously, during the last couple of years, that has largely stopped. But we're just starting to get to the point where we'll be able to spend some more time in schools right about as the school year wraps up. But that's okay. We'll start doing that more. I love spending time in schools. I was actually just my first school visit in almost 2 years. Was in Middletown, Ohio, and I was there, and a little, probably 6-year-old, little kindergartner, actually first grader, I guess he was, so maybe 7 years old. Anyway, interviewed me. He wanted to do an interview, so sat down and asked these questions. Did this interview? I mean, it was a tough interview. He was asking some tough questions, but I just loved it. I loved being back in the classroom again.
When you walk through a school and when you walk through a classroom, what are you looking for? I mean, you've got all of the technology at your fingertips. You've got all of the ed tech companies right there on speed dial. When you walk into that classroom, what excites you?
It excites me when I see students, kids who are engaged in creating, problem solving, designing these active learning activities, right? The saddest thing for me is when I walk into a school and I see technology being used just to present content, right? Just kids on a screen clicking next. And it happens. I visit schools where we see that, and they want to show me these great new laptops that they bought or whatever it is. And the kids are just sitting there kind of like, in a coma, just clicking next on the screen. Those are tough days for me. But what I love is when you walk into a school and the technology is being used for them, they're designing or they're problem solving or they're coming up. They're the ones creating the content, right? They're the ones, especially with the older kids, that are collaborating with other peers or experts out of their school. I visited a class at Los Angeles Unified just shortly before the pandemic. And it was a group of students who were working on a challenge of trying to improve their community. And so they were actually, they'd zoomed in, and this was before we were all using Zoom. They zoomed in the town council, and they were talking to them about how to make the community cleaner. Like, that's what technology is for. It's for bringing in people into the classroom for kids to engage with, and not just to, read content off a screen.
That must be why the first ISTE standard for students is empowered learner, making sure that these students are doing authentic work, making sure that they're the ones leading the discussions, they're the ones leading learning. Right. We had mentioned earlier in your bio that you have a lot of work with coaching students, coaching teachers, making sure that we're using the technology as a tool for really, again, empowering everything that happens worldwide. Why is that important that we make sure that our students are empowered? Why is it important that we make sure that our teachers have really things like the ISTE standards as a guide to use in the classroom?
Yeah, I mean, it gets back to some of what we've been talking about already, which is this idea of, learning. When you're learning something that doesn't relate to you, whether you're an adult, whether you're a kid, right? If you're learning something and it doesn't tie to your interests, it doesn't tie to your passions, it doesn't tie to something that feels meaningful in your life, not only is it really hard to learn, there's very little motivation to learn it.
Yeah.
And so if you can flip that and you can say, how does this matter to you, right? How can we put you in the driver's seat if you're the student, right? How do you get to decide what you're working on? How do you get to make this relevant to your life? Then all of a sudden learning just gets much more powerful. So that's what it's all about. Empowering sounds, you can just roll it off the tongue, empower students. Of course we want to empower students, but it really means if you can put them in control of learning, they learn so much more, right? They become so much more engaged in the learning process.
But it's not just making sure that students are able to be involved in that learning process. You recently published a book called Digital for Good, Raising Kids to Thrive in an Online World. My triplets are in second grade, going into third. I think about this often. I look at them and I kind of compare what they're learning with the standards and all that stuff. And, you got a chapter in there all about digital citizenship. Mm-hmm. And this is something that I have a chance to work with in my profession as an instructional coach, but I also have a chance to work with it in my profession as a parent.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about digital citizenship post-pandemic, digital citizenship in 2022.
Right. Happy to. First of all, we need to pause for a second and go, you have triplets.
I do.
Wow. I didn't realize that. So I have 4 kids, but they all came one at a time. So I had some time to, figure out how to juggle some things. So, but no, that's, it's great. Whether you have 1 or 3 or 5 kids, it's really important that we are thinking about how they can be healthy, engaged members of the virtual world that they live in. And unfortunately, so much of the narrative that we have now is around safety, right? Let's keep kids safe. And don't get me wrong, I want kids to be safe, right? But safety is actually a pretty low bar. And unfortunately, I feel like it has been the end goal for a while. Like, let's just, safety is what it's all about. Like, really? That's the best we can do? Let's keep kids safe as the minimum. And can we do much better than that? Can we help them be engaged members of the digital world? Can we help them know how to use technology to enrich their lives and the lives around them, to be more connected with their family, to know how to find and use appropriate information to help them do the things that they want to do? And so when we think about that, right, when we think about those skills, when we think about the skills of creating a space that's inclusive in the virtual world, where you can engage with people of different viewpoints and learn from them, even if we don't agree with everybody's ideas, right? That's digital citizenship. That's what it means. It's the conditions, the norms, the conditions for success that we set in our homes, in our schools. And we have to reset that conversation. It's not just about choosing a strong password. It's about the type of people we want to be in virtual spaces. And that's what I write in the book. And the goal of the book is to try to help parents and teachers create a new conversation with young people about these digital skills. And so I list at every chapter, I explain a concept and I list a series of questions that are conversation starters. So the idea is to try to help have better, more engaging conversations with young people about how they can be healthy members of our digital world.
I think it's certainly important that we have those conversations. Even now, we're having conversations with our again, they're in second grade. What does it mean to be online? Should you be sending that Google Doc to your friends? All those different conversations. These are now dinner time conversations that we should be having with our students.
Yeah. And the fact that you're having those, this is a really important point, because there's some some movements out there of like, well, let's wait and not have access to technology until our kids are in 10th grade or whatever, I don't know, 18. But that actually robs kids of a very important moments to have interactions over things like you're talking about when and where do you share a document, or what's appropriate balance of your time, right? If we wait, like I want as much time as I can with my kids to model, to have them use technology with me, model good behavior, talk about good behavior. If I were to lose, it's sort of like saying, algebra is really hard, so we're not going to teach math until we'll start teaching math when you're in 10th grade. Like, no. We got to start now with simple things, bite-sized, right, in order to then be set down the road. And it's the same with technology.
You had recently come out with a video a few weeks ago on the ISTE YouTube channel called Innovation Through Disruption. What does that mean to you?
Well, we've lived through a very disruptive last couple years, and so I think it's worth looking at. Well, what it means, and what I was sharing in that video is, if you look at innovation, and I've spent years studying how innovation happens, one of the things that we see is after moments of disruption, of major disruption, of chaos, you always see a bloom in innovation. And part of the reason for that is that those disruptive moments actually set the conditions for innovation, because you're forced to do things differently. You're forced to try new things. The old way, whether you like it or not, maybe is gone, right? Because we're now learning online or whatever it is, right? There is a moment after disruption. There's sort of a runway for new things to be tried, to be tested, to be implemented. And we're in that moment right now. And that's actually a really cool space to be in, right? The disruptive time is just about over. And we have a runway, I'd say, I don't know, about a year, maybe a little less, but we have about a year where there's still a lot of flexibility. Still, things are new. We have new technology. We have a lot of flexibility on rules and regulations, or just on culture and customs that allow us to try new things. And whatever we do, the activities that we do over in that window, right, over this sort of year-ish or so, that's going to determine the design of the future of learning. And so it's just a really fun moment to be in education.
So what has the pandemic taught ISTE heading into this year's convention?
Wow, that's a great question. A lot of things. One is we need to be really spending much more time supporting teachers around us in knowing how to use technology effectively. And I say around us because a lot of the educators that will come to ISTE Live are, like you and me, fairly aware of good uses of technology, et cetera. We now need to be ambassadors, if you will, to help the teachers around us who are frankly not coming to ISTE Live, who are not, but we need to help sort of bring them along. And so that's a thing that you'll see maybe is a little bit of a shift this year, as we'll be talking about how can we act, not just help ourselves do better, there'll be a lot of that too, but also how do we help lead people along who may be not on the same path that we've been on. That's one thing. I think another thing that you'll hear us really focus on is trying to shift to more more creative uses of technology. So the good news is during these COVID years, we got a lot more. We got more infrastructure, right? Got more devices, got more connectivity. The challenge is the approaches to teaching actually narrowed quite a bit, right? And so now we're like, hey, let's take the good part, which is that we have this infrastructure, and add on it, layer on that this creativity that the ISTE community is known for, right? And can we slam the two together and come up with just some amazing learning activities for kids down the road? And so that's a lot of what we'll be talking about.
Well, this is the first year that it's going to be both a live and a virtual conference.
It is.
I'm assuming that presents some challenges.
Yes.
What would some of those challenges be for you and your staff?
Yeah, well, it is tricky. I mean, for real, because it's sort of like producing two whole events. So we're producing the online part and the face-to-face part. One of the things that we decided is that we did not want the virtual option. And you got to remember, it's tricky for us because we're the ones going around saying, hey, you got to have great, virtual experiences. So if we do a crappy virtual experience, right, that doesn't look very good. So we want to, what we decided was we were not going to just throw a camera in the back of some session rooms, right? We wanted to have the online event really feel like an engaging, opportunity to learn, and not just like you were kind of looking, staring, kind of trying to zoom in and see somebody on a stage in the front of the room. And so that's been interesting to say, what do we design? How do we design experiences in the virtual side that are really engaging and feel meaningful for a virtual audience? And then, of course, for the face-to-face, for those of us that will be in New Orleans, how do we also design all those great moments there? And so you'll see it'll go both ways, right? We'll have some people that are in the live event, we'll have some people coming in virtually. On the flip side, on the virtual event, we'll have some people live that'll be joining that way, and then some that'll be on that platform. So it's a long way of saying there are a lot of complications there. That was your original question. Lots of logistics, but it's coming together, and I'm excited to see. I think this is the future of events. I think the future of events will be hybrid, and so we gotta learn how to do it and do it well.
And what will you be doing during the conference? Do you get a chance to walk around? Do you get a chance to relax? Do you get a chance to just kind of blend in? Or are you on the whole time, I would imagine?
No, I absolutely get to walk around. My favorite part is to go around, and I'll drop into some sessions. I have some sessions that I'm doing. I will come and be involved as much as I can. The one thing on that list that you said that I don't do is relax. But that's by choice. I mean, there's so many great things happening, and so many of my friends and colleagues that I haven't seen in a couple years in person that I can't waste that time sitting on a couch somewhere. Like, I got to be out connecting. So you'll see me around as much as I possibly can. I love learning from all of our community. I love dropping in on the sessions. So yeah. And also, by the way, if you see me, if you're, hopefully many of you will be there, come say hello. I'd love to hear your experiences, feedback, right? If there's things we're doing well, I'd love to hear it. If there's things that we need to do better or need to be considering, tell me that too. I really want to make sure we're hearing what ISTE is doing that's helpful and how we can do better.
What's your favorite part of the physical conference experience?
Oh, that's a hard question to answer. I think it's like asking me to pick my favorite kid. Like, I don't know how to. I love actually when I get to just kind of walk in around the halls and just talk to just pull teachers aside and say, how are things going? What's great that you're excited about in your world? What are the things that are the biggest challenges? That's a really helpful thing for me. But I also love going to all the what we call our kind of our play areas, right? Mm-hmm. The play stations, right? I love those. I love the chance to. We're gonna have some amazing main stage speakers this year that I'm really excited about. I love listening to what they have to say. So I don't know, how was that? I just give you like 6 things.
The thing that I love about your answer is it is the same answer that I have gotten from every one of my guests over the last 10 years. Everybody talks about the amazing vendor floor, the sessions, the food, the collaboration. Everybody who I've ever asked the question says, oh yeah, my favorite part of ISTE is being in the hallways and just meeting people. And sometimes the best ISTE sessions are the ones that happen on the spot.
Yes. So actually, let me make a comment about that, because one of the things that we do is we realize that that is not accidental. Like, we plan, we know that one of the most valuable things is for you to be able to connect with people. And we often say that we meticulously plan serendipitous moments. So we actually design the space. We have a team that works on the space design, on where we have places to sit, where we have screens, where we have activities going intentionally, so that people will connect and meet other people. And so yes, the sessions that you go to, they'll be fantastic. They'll be really good. But that to us is just a fraction of the experience of ISTE. And I think, I go to other events, and there's other events where the sessions are really good, but that's what it is. And for us, really, that moment in the hall, that is just as important and special as any session that you go to.
Yeah, please tell everybody on staff that no matter how big ISTE gets, no matter how many people it attracts, there are a lot of people out there that say the best part is the comfortable couches.
Yes.
That they can just sit down and meet these people and have these conversations, make those connections, and really bring this kind of conversation back to school. One of the things that I'm excited about with this particular podcast is that it is being created by the ISTE community leaders. Yeah. Why is it important for the ISTE community leaders and all of the volunteers in the organization to exist? I mean, I've had a great time over the last year being a part of it, working with the team, meeting people, networking. What does this collaboration and community mean to ISTE? And most importantly, what does it mean to you?
Yeah, thank you. That's a great question. I would say 3 things, right? So one of them is that the community leaders are so critical in helping our team know how to stay relevant, right? Pushing us to say what are the topics that matter, what should we focusing on, identifying potential speakers, both for our events, but also in other things that we do, webinars, et cetera, throughout the year. So that's critical. That's the first thing. The second thing is it's an opportunity for community leaders. Our hope is, yes, you're giving and you're volunteering, but it's also an opportunity to build a network of other leaders. And it's tricky for us because a lot of people, especially the community leaders, right, they're often the ones in their schools, right, that are they're leading the way on a lot of things. They're often the educators that people are looking up to, and that's great. It's a fun place to be, but sometimes you also need a peer network of other leaders to sort of help have a different conversation. And so for us, that's also really important, is that the community leaders themselves have a network of support. And then the last one is, we know that the most powerful way that we can help our members, broadly, is not hearing from me. I mean, I'm happy to spend a few moments here with you, but truly, I get boring pretty quickly. Where they have real value is hearing from you and the other leaders who are in schools, know really what's working, know what's not working, know the tips and the tricks. It's just so authentic, and that's what I love. So those three things are really it, like helping create that network for community leaders, helping provide much more relevant and practical advice and guidance, coaching to our members, and then of course helping guide us on the work that we do as ISTE staff.
I remember being at my first ISTE conference 10 years ago, and I was trying to figure out what this is. And I honestly, being a music educator at the time, ISTE to me was just this conference, but it's so much more, and it's so much more to so many people. One of the things that I always tried to figure out how to do is, how do I get myself involved? What's that first thing that I can do? And if somebody asks you that question, how can somebody get involved with ISTE? There's so many different things. What is a good place to start?
Well, I mean, my normal answer to that is actually to point them to our professional learning network, to our PLN, as we call it, right? Because it's a nice, easy way in, especially with some of the changes that we've made, where it's a little bit, there aren't quite so many different groups to have to navigate between, right? To be able to just go in, read what people are saying. I have a lot of educators that say, I'm not quite ready to throw a bunch out there. I just like to lurk. Right. That's okay. They like to go in and hear what people are saying, learn. And so that's where I normally point people. After that, probably my next step would be to suggest that they consider ISTE certification. Go through and get certified, because you're then, a deep engagement with both our staff, but also the cohort, the certified educator cohort. So, those are two things that I mentioned, but there's many others as well.
There have been so many amazing memories, and I'm just thinking about this. And you're letting me do a deep dive in my head here for the last 10 years of getting a chance. ISTE has allowed me to meet Sir Ken Robinson, work virtually, both physically on the floor with great companies, Microsoft, Google, you name it, do amazing presentations. I remember having my triplets come to Philadelphia, where we're mostly based out of, and they had a chance to walk the ISTE floor and get a chance to do things. I even did a panel discussion where I had a puppet as our MC, and we had Angela Myers and Adam Bello and all these other great people on, and I had a puppet sitting there and I was just sitting there going, this was awesome.
Yeah.
What's your, I don't want to say what's your best, that's a hard question, but what's your ISTE memory when you turn around?
Oh, interesting. My ISTE memory. Wow. Also a hard one. That's a hard question. There are, a couple things. One, there are certain, there's some speakers that we've had over the years that have really resonated with me. A couple years ago, we had the creative director from Pixar who talked about how she used design and used technology to design worlds and experiences that weren't possible in the physical world. That was really powerful, because I think that's a lot of what we can do when we think about using technology for learning. And yes, it's very different than designing a Pixar experience, but thinking about, we design a world, right? We use technology to design a very special environment. That's probably the word we'd use in education, right? That I can think of a number of sort of specific pieces of advice like that have really shaped, my thinking. I also, for me, there's something that's maybe a little less tangible. It's not like pointing to a specific moment, but there's a joy that I feel from the people who come to ISTE, and that's really helpful for me when it feels like there's a lot of problems in education in the world, and to just have that moment of saying, there's a lot of joy here still. right? Even when the world gets tough, there's a lot of joy. And that reminds me that what we do is awesome, right? It's really great. And yes, it's tough and it's trying. And I don't mean to minimize all the tough times we've had over those last couple of years, but just seeing the community at ISTE reminds me, yeah, it's also fun too.
We started the conversation today by talking about the mission statement. I want to end today by bringing up the vision statement, the what is ISTE looking forward to? And it says here, the ISTE vision statement is all educators are empowered to harness technology to accelerate innovation in teaching and learning and inspire learners to reach their greatest potential.
Yeah.
What's the next couple of years going to look like for the ISTE?
Yeah. Well, by the way, you see that word inspire in there again. So
absolutely,
we do take that seriously. I think the next couple of years are going to be they're going to be really interesting as we're focusing on designing the future, right? This next little bit is going to determine a lot of what habits and patterns are set for our for what school looks like as we come out of a worldwide pandemic. So we'll be doing a lot of discussion about that. But one of the things that we're going to be doing a bit more of is actually working with the tech community, the developers, to help push the quality of the products a bit. There's some good stuff out there, but we have this really smart community as part of ISTE, and we need to help leverage that to make sure the tools and the apps that are being created are not just okay, but are really awesome. So you'll see we're actually going to be announcing at ISTE Live here. I'll give a little preview of coming attractions. We have a new tool that'll be coming out under our EdSurge brand, but it's going to be called the EdSurge Product Index. In fact, it's already available in a beta mode. So if you want to go check it out, if you go to index.edsurge.com, index.edsurge.com. And it's a new way to help identify the types of tools and apps that are most helpful for what we need in the classroom. So you'll see us doing more work to maybe be like to play Switzerland between the education community and the tech community. And I think we need to blur that line a bit between those two. So that's something we're going to. And then lastly, I'll say we're going to be doing quite a bit more around focusing on preparing future teachers. We have a pipeline issue, right? If you've been watching any of the news, and we are going to be starting to do a lot more work with educator prep programs, so schools of education, to make sure that new teachers that are coming out with experience using technology, experience using technology in collaborative ways, and using it to help continue innovation in schools once they get there.
I'm glad that you brought that up, and I'm certainly glad that that's going to be a focus. I mean, there's so many teachers out there right now that are, I don't know how else to put it, inspired to get out of the classroom and are making that switch from classroom to ed tech or classroom to something. Where is ISTE on that topic? Where is ISTE when it comes to supporting teachers, supporting their growth, supporting them, inspiring themselves, but at the same time, we need those teachers in the classroom working with that next generation.
That's right. I mean, we just need a lot more people being excited about coming into the teaching profession in all areas, and it's good. Look, we need good teachers that are helping design the next generation of apps and products too, right? So I'm glad that some teachers are choosing to do that, but we need to not do that at the expense of having amazing teachers in the classroom. And so that has to come from, one, us doing a better job of a community of telling the story of education. And again, I mentioned EdSurge a second ago. We try to use our EdSurge platform to capture stories of amazing teachers. And so that, people who are considering the profession go, oh yeah, I can see myself doing that. I want to be part of that, right? So that's part of it, is that we have to really work on that pipeline. But the other is just, we start too late, right? We need to start getting people interested in considering teaching as a profession before they're out of high school. Yeah. And so thinking about opportunities for younger students, definitely, as I mentioned, for in college, I'll give you another little preview of a coming attraction that we'll be announcing at the event, is that we are launching a pledge for educator prep programs to agree to 5 principles that they will do to prepare their new teachers to be able to thrive in a digital world, right? So when we have teachers that are better prepared, guess what? They stay longer, right? The 2 things that we find that help teachers stay longer in the classroom are 1, being prepared, right? Especially prepared around technology, and 2, having a network, not feeling alone. And so those are 2 areas where we'll be doing a lot of focus, making sure that there's deep understanding of how to use technology effectively, and 2, that all teachers can be part of a professional network, and that can be a digital one as well as a physical one.
There's a lot that we can certainly go over. And, as we start this podcast here from our ISTE community leaders, Richard, I hope that you'll welcome yourself back on the show. We'd love to have you as a guest and, come back on and occasionally tell us where we are with ISTE, what the future is going to hold. I want to ask you one last question here. As we are looking at the conference coming up, what advice do you have for anybody coming to this conference for the first time? It's overwhelming to see 15, 20,000 of your closest friends all walking around the vendor floor, the thing. What advice would you give somebody who's listening to this show going, how do I survive this?
Well, you know what I would say is don't need to overthink it, right? Just come, just enjoy as you're there. There'll be opportunities for things to go and to do, and just be willing to enjoy the moment and don't feel the pressure. I think some people there's 1,500 sessions or whatever it is that I gotta plan it all in advance. Just enjoy. You'll be led to these moments. You'll find people. The thing that I would also say is make sure you meet somebody new every day. And that doesn't mean just saying hi to somebody as you're walking down the hall. Actually pull somebody aside and talk. Ask them what they do. Ask them. You'll meet 5 new best friends in the days you're at ISTE if you allow. And I found that for me, and I've heard this from others as well. Sometimes it's those relationships, right, that last far longer than any information that we receive. And so I think those are my 2 suggestions. One is just enjoy. Don't overstress yourself on trying to plan it. And the other is really prioritize meeting some new people that will be perhaps lifelong colleagues.
ISTE CEO Richard Collada, thank you so much for joining us today on the show, and best of luck as we head into our conference season.
Thank you so much for having me, and I do hope you'll invite me back. It's great to get to talk to you.
And Sue, first of all, we want to say thank you to Richard for coming on. We want to say thank you to ISTE for helping us get together. I have known Richard now since 2017, as I mentioned in the interview. And I remember sitting there, I can't remember if it was Denver or Chicago or whatever that year was, or wherever the location was in 2017, and just going, all right, I'm sitting in the press room. There he is. I love to figure out how to get him on the show. And what was that, 2017? So 18, 19, 20, 21.
5 years later.
5 years later, I'm so excited about all this stuff.
Exciting. Great stuff. Great stories. Love it.
And you know what? He's so open. He's so honest. He's so genuine. And his experiences of being a teacher, being in the coaching role, working for the United States Department of Education, building the first national education plan, all the, I definitely, I'm looking forward to having him back on the show. And after we got done recording, he's like, yeah, anytime, give us a call. So one more time, thank you to ISTE. Thank you to Richard Collada for coming on the show. Don't forget, The Edge is going to be available on all of our platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, you name it. You can also head on over to ISTE.org/podcast. And, as we head on into June, we have one more week of May and all, but as we head on into June, professional development is important. Wrapping up that year is important. Next week, Sue, we're going to do a great episode called Things I Know Now That I Wish I Knew in September. Remember September, Sue?
I think so. It was back there a ways, but
it was back there a ways. The world was different. Not saying that we're out of the pandemic fully, we're still popping up cases in buildings and things like that. But man, September seemed to be a long time ago.
Yes, it did. And things are getting better and hopefully on the road to getting even better as we continue moving forward.
We would like to hear from you. What kind of content would you like to hear from us over the summertime? What kind of professional development would you like to see over us as we're heading into the summer? We're having some great conversations with some amazing professional development networks. We'd like to create another instructional coaching conference like we did last summer and the summer before that. Would love to do like a half-day event where we get coaches together and share the love and stream it out live and put all that stuff together. So, we're having some conversations. We're seeing what we can put together. We are here to support you. Don't forget to head on over to the TeacherCast Instructional Coaches Network. We would love to have you as a part of our Facebook group or our LinkedIn group. All of the links are going to be over on AskTheTechCoach.com. I don't know if you guys noticed, we have been completely stripping it down, revamping it, changing all the pages around. So hope you have a chance to check everything out over at AskTheTechCoach.com. Lots of new things for you. And Sue, I'm looking forward to a great summertime, and I'm looking forward to putting this school year to bed and moving forward. Yes. What are you looking forward to, and what can we expect as we go forward here on techimaginations.net?
Just posting some new stuff. I think I've talked about my new video is out about appointment schedules and Google Calendar, so that's exciting. And then some new things, just some new little tips and tricks that I've discovered here lately on Google Chrome, the Google Chrome reading list. I'm getting ready to publish a new video about that, and I've been starting to use that a little more, so stay tuned to my YouTube channel and techimaginations.net.
And of course, keep in mind, everything that we're doing here is on TeacherCast and over on AskTheTechCoach.com. Check it out. So on behalf of Sue and everybody here in the TeacherCast Educational Network, my name is Jeff Bradbury, reminding you guys to keep up the great work in your classroom and continue sharing your passions with your students.
You've been listening to Ask the Tech Coach, hosted by Jeff Bradbury of the TeacherCast Educational Network. Please reach out to the show with all of your questions on Twitter at AskTheTechCoach or online at www.askthetechcoach.com. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss any future episodes. And please take a moment to write a review in the App Store.